Rev up your engine. It's a 2014 Impala. It smells like gasoline. Now, it's got over 200,000 miles. It kind of surprises me that it's running as good as it is. Takes very good care of it. He bought it used for 10 grand. He's put almost 100,000 miles on himself, but as you can see, he's running the Supernova air freshener because it smells of gasoline. He wants to hide it with the Supernova. Boing. Now he's already gone through codes and he changed the evap canister because it had a code for the evap canister which can vent gasoline fumes, but it still smells of gasoline. There's nothing leaking on the ground. When we open the hood and look inside, there's no obvious things pouring out when you start it up. It starts right up. You don't see gasoline dripping anywhere. Now the big problem with gasoline leakage is this. If it's got a liquid leak, you're gonna see it, you'll smell it, it'll be dripping down. But if it's a very slow leak, you can smell it, but it's gonna be very hard to pinpoint where the heck it's coming from. So, get yourself a big funnel, stick it in the gas, then get some UV leak dye, pour it in, and you do have to mix it, so have a gas can to mix some in so it'll flow through the system. Now the ultraviolet leak dye will go to the fuel system, and if it's got a leak somewhere, we'll be able to see it. Using these cool yellow sunglasses the kit comes with, and a big old UV lamp. If you can see the UV in the sunlight but here, we'll put it under the hood. Now you can definitely see the UV light. Drive it around half an hour, get it flowing through the system, see where the dye comes out. Now, as we all know, I'm not a big fan of GM products. I gotta say, it's still got the original engine and training. It's got 207,000 miles on it. Now, I don't want too much smell in, so we'll leave it on the recirc. Crack the windows a little, suck some of the smell out, and we'll take it for a spin. I gotta say, these aren't the original seats. He added them in. This car's in good shape. This guy's a soldier, and he takes care of the car. But typical GM, you can say the rear vision system doesn't work anymore. And while we're driving to see where the leak is, we'll see what kind of shape the car is generally in. Now, it's only a 4-cylinder engine, still running pretty good. You can hear the struts clunking. He's gonna change the strut up there. I can tell that's worn out. He told me that, but still doesn't handle all that bad. Makes a lot of noise because the strut is worn, but you know, you step on the gas, it gets up and goes for a little 4-cylinder. For 200-something thousand miles, it's still a pretty quiet vehicle. It doesn't make all that much noise. We'll go to our little drag strip when people get out of the way here. Alrighty, here we go. Not in bad shape, really. Other than the smell of gasoline, which I can definitely smell mixed with the air freshener. What a combo. Gasoline air freshener. So, here we go. We'll come to a stop, and let's see what this thing has. Hey, it started spinning the tires. Shifts like a dream. Decent pickup. I can't complain. 207,000 miles, it's still running really well. You can hear a little noise because I have the windows open. I don't like the smell of the gasoline. Now, this guy really takes care of his cars. He changed the oil regularly. The dealer wanted like 800 bucks to change the water pump. So he bought the water pump and changed himself. Didn't take all that long. About an hour to do. He's really taking care of this car. But the smell's driving him nuts. I've rolled the window up and you can see, still a relatively quiet car. 207,000 miles. I don't hear any wheel bearing roaring or anything. I'm kind of amazed that it still works that good when you step on the gas. Not a race car, but it gets up and goes, and it's very smooth power. The strut is worn on the right front, and I can feel it in the handling. So I'm not going to push it too hard. But you can see, still idles really smoothly. And as we wait for people to go by, well, he's turning in here, so here we go. CV joints don't clack. I mean, kind of shocks me that it's running as good as it is. This kind of mileage on an Impala. And little baby cows out today. A little cold for them. Track's good. I got my hand off the steering wheel. Goes pretty straight. And we'll head on back to see if the dye's going to show us where the gasoline smell is coming from. Now, as we open the hood, we're going to see some strange things. It's got a Chinese engine made in China. What's up with that? Chinese engine in an Impala. Well, actually, the problem is the original valve cover assembly was made out of cheap plastic crap and it leaked and broke, right? So he went out and bought a Chinese aftermarket one and put it on. That's made out of metal. It won't crack like the cheap plastic stuff did. And I do kind of have a suspicion that the gasoline smells because of cheap plastic crap too. Cheap plastic fuel injectors. So I'm going to get my glasses on and if UV light. First we're going to check around the injectors, which are on the back side. Now it's kind of hard to see down there, so I got a more high intensity, smaller UV light that shines in small holes better. Now I didn't see any leaks from the top, so we have to go to the bottom because you really can't see the fuel injector rail unless you're underneath. So I got our jack stand and that. We got to get relatively high so we can get under there and put a jack stand so we don't get squashed. Now we start looking around. If we look, okay, there's some green glow coming from the top, coming down. Okay, the fuel injector rail is above that. It's coming down from the fuel injector rail. It's plastic up here. You can see the dye's coming down here. Now that we're back outside, top of the car, the 4 fuel injectors are down there. Take all this crap off, and since it's all plastic junk. Now in the past, I've attempted to fix them and I found all that plastic crap, 200-something thousand miles. You got to replace it all. You can't just say, oh, I'll change the gasket, I'll change this. It generally all comes apart when you start taking it apart. Because there's 4 of them, you got to take the assembly off. Generally, everything starts cracking. All plastic, the injectors are inside. They're made out of plastic and metal. Now, as you can see, the fuel rail itself is $307 without the injectors, and it's 2.7 hours labor. And realize this is a gasoline direct fuel injection system that operates under extremely high pressure. I personally wouldn't touch this job unless everything was changed. The rail, the seals, the injectors. It would be a small fortune. Now it's not dripping on the ground, it's just kind of evaporating on the top of the engine so you can smell it. Now as you can see in all data, it's a very gigantic pain in the butt replacing this stuff. And as I said, all these plastic parts, you gotta replace them. You can't, I'll take this, I'll try a gasket, oh, maybe I'll try one injector. Once they start leaking, you gotta replace the whole enchilada, all of it. Not a little here, a little there. It'll be a very, very expensive repair. Now, it's over $600 labor to take the whole thing apart. The injectors are about 200 bucks a piece. There's various gaskets. Basically, you're looking at probably well over $2,000. That's why I'm not a fan of the Ecotech GDI fuel injection where you get all this extra pressure. When they get old and this says over 200,000 miles, they start to leak. It is a fortune, an absolute fortune to repair the stupid thing. Fuel pressure varies from 750 pounds per square inch at idle to 2,250 psi at wide open throttle, up to 2,500 pounds per square inch. And of course, there's a lot of plastic crap in there. As time goes on, the plastic gets brittle, then the seals don't seal, it starts seeping. Now it runs perfectly fine. So it ran like a clock, but you can start to smell the gas because it's starting to seep there. Obviously, it's going to cost over $2 grand to fix it correctly, which not too many people are going to spend that on an old car like this. So basically, you got an 8-year-old car with planned obsolescence because it's going to cost a fortune to fix this thing due to the use of the plastic parts and the ultra high pressure. And don't think they don't think about it when they build them. So you got a good running car, but of course he's smelling the gasoline inside. It's not particularly safe to drive because eventually it will start leaking all over the place, right? That's the problem with these planned obsolescence crappy systems. Put a bunch of plastic crap, 2,500 pounds per square inch pressure, they start leaking, you start shelling out money to fix something that, if it was saying my Toyota, one, their injectors hardly ever leak, but this injector system's only like 55 psi pressure, hardly any. That's one of the reasons they don't leak. The more pressure you put in them as they age, of course they're gonna leak more. No more guessing that, oh, could it be this, could it be that? He changed the evap canister and it still smelled. That wasn't the problem. The problem is the high pressure fuel system is leaking and it costs so much money. But at the same time, I would not, and I mean would not, attempt to fix it half-assedly by, oh, well, maybe this gasket's wrong, maybe that gasket's wrong. No, you're dealing with all that immense pressure. You got to replace all the parts. If they're leaking, even some of them now, you take it apart, then they'll often leak when you put it back together if you don't use all new parts. It's just a rat's nest when these GDI systems start to break down. And sure, they have more power, they get better gas mileage, but when it costs a fortune to fix them, you're throwing all that out the window, and you're going to spend a ton of money to fix a little seep that probably would not have occurred if they would have used a lower pressure fuel injection system. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.